or whenever you want to tap into a superpower that will help you and everyone around you live a longer, healthier, happier life, smile.
Yeah, boy, yes, we've made it to episode 2. Boom, 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 boom. You know, I really want one of those things, that machine that is going boom, 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 boom. But I would legit be like, yeah, I'd be a hot mess. I'd be a hot mess if I had one of those things. I swear to God, like the entire episode would just be me playing around with that thing. But anyways, welcome to it, guys. Episode 2 of Love and Philosophy. So stoked that you're here with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, man, the first episode was a little bit of a tricky one. You know, I recorded it so many times. I had such an elaborate plan for it. I was going to be like, yo, you guys need to have a prologue to get to know me and all of these things. And then eventually I just kind of decided, you know what, like, I just need to put something out there. I just need to start, you know, because I have a tendency, particularly around content, because it's what I do for a living. So particularly around content, I want it to be perfect. And so I just had to like kind of get that episode out there. And I am so grateful to every single person that tuned in, every single person that sent feedback. I really do genuinely appreciate it. Yeah, man. Just in case anybody doesn't know, Love and Philosophy will go out every Wednesday. We'll have an episode. For the first few weeks, it'll just be me talking. And then after a while, hopefully we'll get some guests involved where we can discuss some meaty ideas. I've had some great conversations over the last couple of weeks. And I just feel like, wow, I really want to bring them to this platform and kind of share those conversations with you and have us discussing them. Also, if anybody would like to kind of reach out to me for whatever reason, I have an email address. It's volo@volosophy.com. That's volo@volosophy, so VOLO@volosophy.com. So yeah, you can always reach out to me there as well if you've got any feedback or anything that you'd like to say. Yeah, that's the channel of communication. But enough about all of that noise. Let's get into it. Episode 2, where we're discussing ideas. So we need to discuss the one thing that I probably don't want to discuss, and that is the Matrix Resurrections. The latest Matrix, guys. Wow. What an absolute, yes, like it. It was so disappointing. What a trash movie. And it's not like a trash movie because it's inherently trash in and of itself, but it's because it comes off of the back of such a game-changing trilogy. Like, so much so that I don't count this latest iteration of The Matrix in the Matrix franchise. Like, I can't. Because the first one was incredible. Now, of course, the first one had all the effects and you know, it had great actors and all that things. But the second one, I mean, this last one as well, like, whatever, it had effects, it had the things. But really what it was missing was the storyline. And the storyline that we got from the original Matrix, which was more about, you know, knowing who you are. Neo's journey is a journey of learning about himself, learning about who he is. At first, he's just a random dude. He's got an office job, doing whatever, clickety-clack, going about his day, you know, just accepting what is, right? And then he begins to question his reality, at which point he is introduced to Morpheus, who then leads him into the real world and out of the Matrix and shows him what the Matrix actually is. And from that point on, Neo takes on this journey of better understanding what the Matrix is, what the Matrix's limitations are, what the real world is, what the real world's limitations are, and who he is in context of that. In the original trilogy, if you ever go back to the movies and watch them, you'll see in the Oracle's kitchen, there is a board just above the entrance to the kitchen. It says Temet Nosce. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's a Greek or Latin, I think, actually. Yeah, Latin. It's a Latin phrase that says know thyself. It means know thyself. And that is essentially Neo's journey. And in reality, that is what we need to do as well. But the thing that we need in order to do it it's not to get plugged out of the matrix, because we're not living in the matrix. It's the real world. Well, I mean, to some people it is the matrix, but whatever, kudos to you guys. But it's we need to deal with ideas, because ideas are the thing that shape our reality, right? One of the ways that I kind of look at ideas and how they come about and how we can really shape them again is through an analogy that I came up with a friend when I was chilling, when we were chilling together at my brother's place one day, and we were kind of just having a conversation. It's almost identical to the Plato's allegory of the cave, which is basically this image, right, of these people, and they're sitting in a cave, right? But in this cave, all they can see on the shadows are just monsters. They can just see monsters, right? But now they're seeing monsters, and the monsters are obviously behind them. They don't know where the monsters are. And so they're just like, you know what? We're not going to move from this position because there's monsters there, right? And so they never move. But when you look at the picture, right? Because obviously they don't know, they can't see the full picture. We can see the full picture. But when you look at the picture, those monsters are actually just a projection that somebody else has put there in order to keep them where they are, right? And the whole thing is to illustrate how when you actually get up and you get out of, or you stop being afraid of those monsters or the projection of the monsters, you're able to then walk out of the cave and into, the world, and to see the world and to actually appreciate the world for what it is. Now, I mean, not all of us are philosophy students. Heck, I didn't even know what Plato's allegory, what was, until like somebody literally was like, oh yeah, I think you're talking about Plato's cave. And I was like, Plato's what now? Who's Plato? Who's that guy? I know Pluto. Who's this guy? The dog for Goofy. I don't know who Plato is. So basically not all of us know that. So, I mean, before I'd even come across that idea, I thought about it myself in terms of like moving, right? In my life, I've moved around a lot. Well, I moved around a lot when I was a kid. When I was about 14 years old, we had kind of settled down in Milnerton. But before that, we had moved like 5 times in the space of, call it 3 years or 4 years. We moved around a lot. But anyway, point being, I kind of look at it like we're moving. And so when I was having this conversation with a friend, I was saying to her that I break it down like this. So when we are born, we know absolutely nothing. This is like the best part about children, is that they're absolute idiots. And you can see it in their eyes, like, right, when they look around, like, they're like, what's going on? Where am I? They don't know anything, right? And it's hilarious. But it's also super cute because you realize like you don't know anything. Like you're just an idiot, right? But they're trying to learn. And through observation, they pick up a lot of things, right? They pick up a lot through observation. Unfortunately, they don't have context. So they just observe something and then they mimic that thing and they continue. But also they pick up things that we tell them, right? But when that child is born, their mind essentially is in a closet, is how I like to look at it. They're in a closet. And so all these observations that they make without real context, real world context and nuance, they're made in a closet. All these conclusions, they make them in a closet. All the things that we tell them, you mustn't chew with your mouth open and all those things, they don't know necessarily the why. They just obey and they listen to you. And so it's in the closet. And that is what happens to kids from the minute that they're born up until, I don't know, I'm not a child psychologist, so I can't tell you when they stop doing it. I guess they only stop doing it once they start questioning their own world and coming up with their own conclusions about things, which I assume is in their teens. But essentially, that is all done in the closet, right? But then comes a moment in time in their life, like I said, maybe in their teens or in their 20s when they've left school or whatever, where they kind of are in the real world. And now you get faced with, some real world realizations. For me, one of those realizations was racism. And I know it sounds crazy because I'm a black person. It's like, oh, yo, dude, you're supposed to know what racism is. But I grew up in Cape Town. I grew up around a lot of white people. My mother never really, spent a whole bunch of time telling us, like, white people are the devil. Who's that? Bobby Boucher. White people be the devil. You got to be careful, them white folk. No, my mother never did that. So I never really had this idea of what racism was. And so when black consciousness was introduced to me, because I saw that, like, no, man, black people, there's some correlation to what people are saying is racism and the lived experiences of my friends, then it was like, oh, snap, What happens there is that Volo's mind and Volo's idea about what racism is had to be moved out of the closet and to be given some light. And so what actually happens is, like, you are in the closet and you realize, like, man, I'm hearing voices outside. Now, those voices are basically people telling me that, like, there's racism, right? I'm hearing voices outside. And I don't know how to make of this. What to make of this. And so I start to deny that those voices are there, i.e. I deny what my friends' claims are. I hope you guys are following me. I hope it's not too confusing. And I deny those claims and I say, no, guys, there's no racism, blah, 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 blah. Because I want to stay in the closet. Why? Because it's all I know. I'm safe there, right? Nothing can harm me there. Everything I've learned, everything I've understood, everything that I've perceived has been from that closet. And so I want to stay there, okay? And so these people continue. And at some point I go, you know what? Those voices, I need to explore what's going on over there. And so I move my arms around. Remember, I'm in a dark closet, can't see shit. I move my arms around. Now all of a sudden I hit something and it's the door. And I can feel like, hey, this thing can move. There was no reason for me to hit this door in the first place before. So I didn't even know that there was something there. But now I hit it. I'm like, oh shit, this thing moves. And then I creak it open and a little bit of light shines in. I'm like, oh, nope. Right? Because it's light. It's the first time I've experienced it. So it's fucking scary. Right? But after a while, I pluck up the courage and I push through. Bang! And now I'm introduced to black consciousness. And this is the process every single one of us will go through whenever we are having to entertain an idea that will contradict something that we've always believed before. So for me, it was racism and black consciousness. For you, it could be something along the lines of romantic relationships or the relationship with your parents, whatever the case may be, anything, right? You will be confronted like that. Anyway, so you step out into this new room. From the closet, you move into the bedroom. And in this bedroom, you see people there and, you are freaked out, right? Because you can't understand, like, oh my God, like, how come I never knew about this before? Like, who's been lying to me all this time? Like, and you scurry into the corner because your mind is just overloaded with a bunch of questions about the world. Why the hell did nobody tell me that this room exists? Why did everybody just leave me in the closet? Like, why the hell is this happening right now? Like, what else don't I know about the world? Is everything in the closet, was that all a lie? Like, what's going on? Like, why did these people do this to me, right? And so eventually you calm down because the people in that room, they understand because they've gone through the same process. Remember, we've all gone through this exact same process. So they've gone through the process. And so they just wait for you to calm down. You calm down and eventually they show you around. They explain, this new idea, this expanded idea. In my case, like I said, it's a black consciousness. People explaining it to me. I'm doing more reading. That reading is basically exploring the room that I'm in. And I'm understanding this thing, right? And I'm understanding it until I get a good grasp of it. Now I've got a good grasp of this thing and I'm like, okay, cool, sharp, no problem. This is great. I feel comfortable in the one bedroom, right? But then I hear more voices. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, not again, right? And I hear more voices, but this time I turn around to the people that I'm in the room with and I say, hey, guys, can anybody else hear those voices? Like, what's the story? Should we go? And a couple of them might say, nah, I don't hear any voices. Why? Because they didn't like that experience of coming out the closet and into the bedroom. and they feel safe in the bedroom. And you know what? It's okay. I am where I am. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, we're going to go back to the Matrix quickly, but I don't know if you guys remember the one character. His name was Cypher. He was like the bad guy in the first Matrix. He basically wanted to be plugged back into the Matrix. And essentially they kept telling him like, Cypher, you can't be plugged back into the Matrix, because once you've been plugged out, then it's like you can't get plugged back in. It just is the reality that you're dealing with. So basically you will encounter those people when it comes to ideas. People that have been plugged out basically from the ideas that they held in the closet as children, and now they hold ideas, new ideas, expanded ideas, but they don't like it. They actually just want to go back to what they knew as children. They want to go back to the ignorance is bliss time in their lives, but they can't because they've already crossed that bridge, right? It's funny because Cypher literally says that when he's eating a steak, where he says, I know that the steak is fake and all that, but ignorance is bliss, and he just eats the steak and he goes, oh, it's delicious, but he knows it's not a real steak. Anyway, and so these people in the room will say, no, we don't hear anything. And okay, maybe one or two others say, we do hear something, right? And you guys will say, okay, let's formulate a plan to go out there. But what ends up happening most of the time is the fact that when it's time to go out there, those people aren't going to go with you. You have to go by yourself because it's your journey. It's your mind. It's your ideas. So you need to go further. You can't have somebody holding your hand to go through that. It would be lovely because it'd be less scary. Remember, we don't know what's on the other side of that door, right? Because we've never seen it. We've never understood it. We come from the closet. We've just made sense of the one bedroom now with the bed and the side tables and all that stuff. Now you're asking us to go out into another door where we're not sure what's over there. We're afraid. Again, Plato's allegory of the cave. But anyway, over time you realize, okay, cool, I need to go and do this thing by myself. And same process, bang, you go out there, you're terrified. Oh my God, what's happening? And this tends to happen over and over and over again, until you reach a point where you understand that it never stops, that is the inherent journey of life. Now, for me, I look at it like this. We move from the closet to the one bedroom. From the one bedroom, we move into an apartment. From an apartment, we move into a townhouse. From a townhouse, we move into a house. From a house, we move into a beachside home. And then from the beachside home, we move into a villa. And then from a villa, we move into vacant land. Now, what these different homes or spaces represent for me, remember, this is just me. This is my way of looking at things. It helps me understand the world a little bit better and helps me navigate my life a bit better. Take it if you want to take it. Leave it if you don't want to take it. It's up to you. But what it represents to me is in the closet, everything there is about me. It's about you, right? You are the central character. There is nobody else there, right? It's the closet. You are the only person there. You can't see anybody. It's dark. It's pitch black. You know that you're there, but you can't see anybody else. So the ideas that you hold there will generally be those sorts of ideas that don't take into consideration other people. They will center you in every aspect of life, right? Then you move into the room where now there's other people there. But I believe that in that room, what happens is it's other people, but those people become your tribe according to the pain and suffering that you guys find together. Like you find in common, with one another, right? So I get into the room and I will identify who has the same sort of pain and suffering as me. Who else feels hard done by this realization that I've just had from closet to one bedroom? Oh shit, you guys over there? Okay, cool. I'm coming to you guys. Boom. And I'm going to stick with those people because we're going to have similar experiences, similar questions about life, similar ways of looking at life. And that's going to make us feel what? Safe. Because now we're in a group. We were safe in the closet. We came into the bedroom. It's not safe. I identified people that hold similar ideas, similar, outlooks. and we huddled together as a group, now I feel safe. Everybody else can fuck off. It's us. We know the truth because we're safe and within one another. But then we move out into the apartment, okay? Because now you're expanding a little bit. So you step away from that group maybe. But now it's about the people that are closest to you, right? And look, those people might not share the same pain and suffering that you shared with those people in the one bedroom, but life becomes about them now all of a sudden, right? You call it your family, your closest friends, etc. It's about that. Like that becomes like your community, and you want to make sure that you understand that thing, and that's what it's about. Again, you still feel safe there. You might not agree with those people, but you still feel safe because you people are close to me, so it's okay. I can be more vulnerable here, right? Then from there we move out into the townhouse. Whew, this is the one. Hey, this is the one. This is now people which you don't agree with. So remember, we went from the closet. It was all about us. Then we went into the room. It was about people that we agreed with. Then it was the bedroom. I mean, the one bedroom apartment, where it was the people close to us, but we might not agree with them. Now it's like people outside of our network and all of that we might not agree with. And it's not to say that I'm going out there and arguing with them, but I'm trying to understand those people. In the previous rooms, there's no need for me to understand them. But in the townhouse, there's a need for me to understand them. We move into the house, from the townhouse to the house. Now, in the townhouse, it was about people I don't agree with, right? And trying to understand them. The house is about people that I actively hate. People that I do not like, right? That's the place where you're trying to understand those people. Because it's like, you start to ask yourself, like, who are you guys? What's your guys' story? You're also out here in the world. I want to understand you. I do not like you, though. As a human being, I do not like you, but I want to understand you, right? That's the house. Then the beach house is about saying, I'm going to try and understand all living species. It's about all living species. Not just human beings, but everything. Everything. And because I'm in relationship with it all, whether or not I'm aware of it, but I'm in relationship with it all, right? So you're trying to understand that. Then the villa becomes about God and the universe, because God and the universe are intrinsically attached to all of it. It is all a part of the same thing, right? And so you look to understand that, and you look to grasp that a little bit better. And that allows you to move through the world with a little bit more ease. And then we get to vacant land, where it's almost like you just have a hut and you have the absolute bare minimum of what you need. But you are I would imagine the Buddhists, in Buddhism, they call it nirvana, just absolute joy, right? Unbridled joy. And that is the space where it's about the experience of life. It's when you are now looking at life like it's like a jungle gym. It's like a theme park. It's like it's a game. And you are a child again. And all you are doing in life, with all its stresses, with all its complexity, with all its moments where you can't control, you're just smiling, you're giddy, you're happy, because you understand that you are a soul, that you can never die, and that you get this shot, you get this moment to come and experience this thing called life. And so, holy crap, this is amazing. What? I've been in wherever, in my mind, I picture us all in the clouds, like in the actual galaxies and the Milky Ways and stuff. That's where I picture us going. But and I use that so I can logically imagine what I'm about to talk to you guys about. But it's like, I've been in this Milky Way this entire time, and now I'm here on Earth in this like body, and I'm experiencing life. Holy shit, this is so cool. A bit of heartbreak comes along. Oh my God, this is heartbreak. Oh my God, this person just broke my heart. Oh wow, this is what it feels like. Oh, this isn't nice. I don't like that. but I'm grateful to be experiencing it, because I've been stuck there for like 1 billion years. Oh, this is okay. I'm enjoying this experience. It's really cool, right? And so you go through life with just joy and gratitude for everything, good and bad. Everything is balanced. So 25 minutes in, I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. Given the examples of what I've just given about what it's like in the closet, the one bedroom, etc., 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 do you believe that your ex might have been a narcissist? Have you ever dated a narcissist? Do you think, when you think to yourself, why one person there's a narcissist? Maybe you had a friend that's a narcissist. Let's try a perspective switch. Have you ever thought that perhaps they just had closet mentality perspective? Where, like most kids, like all kids actually, they just saw themselves as the center of the story. That in reality, they didn't actually mean you any harm. They just did not know any better. That to them, they just view the world in that way. It's a question, right? Think about it. Let me know what you come up with in the comment section and in the DMs and stuff. And then also we move on to the one bedroom. This, there's my team, the people that experience life the same way that I do, that see the world that the way that I see it too. Are you genuinely correct about the world? Or is it that you've just huddled into a corner and have an us versus them mentality because you are terrified of the world? I'm just asking a question. Think about it. I can give you one perfect example is the vax versus the anti-vax, right? Currently at this moment in time. Which side of that coin do you fall on? Are you accepting of people and you walk around and you're not afraid of people and you just do you and you don't need them to move in a particular way? Or are you that person saying, you must get vaccinated, I want to get back to normal? Have you ever thought to yourself that some people maybe just don't look at life that way? That they're not necessarily afraid and they don't look at it as an us versus them thing because they don't center you in the story of their life. Has it ever maybe occurred to you that in taking the position that you're taking, you're centering yourself in everybody else's story and saying, I am the main character and I need you to move in a particular way in order for me to get back into my life, which is really just, I need to get out of this fearful room that I'm in with these people that I'm huddled with. Anyways, it's just a thought. Let me know what your thoughts are. That's been the midway mark of the podcast. Let's get into part 2 of episode 2. I think the first thing that we need to do is just to understand some closet mentality, some common closet mentality thinking. Those ideas that it's about me. Look, when I was in therapy, they actually gave us this. Not they. Why am I saying they? I literally had one therapist. My therapist gave me this idea that is known as the triangle of self-obsession. It's like a Narcotics Anonymous kind of idea. So I'm just going to read it for you. When we are born, we are conscious only of ourselves. We are the universe. We perceive little other than our basic needs. And if these needs are met, we are content. As our consciousness expands, we become aware of a world outside ourselves. We discover that there are people, places, and things around us, and that they fulfill our needs. At this point, we also begin to recognize differences and develop preferences. We learn to want and choose. We are the center of a growing universe and expect to be provided with the things we need and want. Our source of contentment shifts from basic needs miraculously met to the fulfillment of our desires. Most children, through experiences or over a period of time, come to realize that the outside world cannot provide all their wants and needs. They begin to supplement what is given to them with their own efforts. As their dependency on people, places, and things decreases, they begin to look to themselves more and more. They become more self-sufficient and learn that happiness and contentment come from within. Most continue to mature. They recognize and accept their strengths, weaknesses, and limitations. At some point, they usually seek the help of a power greater than themselves to provide the things they cannot provide for themselves. For most people, growing up is a natural process. As addicts, however, we seem to falter along the way. We never seem to outgrow the self-centeredness of the child. We never seem to find the self-sufficiency that others do. We continue to depend on the world around us and refuse to accept that we will not be given everything. We become self-obsessed. Our wants and needs become demands. We reach a point where contentment and fulfillment are impossible. People, places, and things cannot possibly fill the emptiness inside of us, and we react to them with resentment, anger, and fear. Resentment, anger, and fear make up the triangle of self-obsession. All of our defects of character and are forms of these three reactions. Self-obsession is at the heart of our insanity. Resentment is the way most of us react to our past. It is the reliving of past experiences again and again in our minds. Anger is the way most of us deal with the present. It is our reaction to and denial of reality. Fear is what we feel when we think about the future. It is our response to the unknown, a fantasy in reverse. All three of these things are expressions of our self-obsession. They are the way that we react when people, places, and things, past, present, and future, do not live up to our demands. In Narcotics Anonymous, we are given a new way of life and a new set of tools. These are the 12 steps, and we work them to the best of our ability. If we stay clean and can learn to practice these principles in all our affairs, a miracle happens. We find freedom from drugs, from our addiction, and from our self-obsession. Resentment is replaced with acceptance, anger is replaced with love, and fear is replaced with faith. We have a disease that, in the end, forces us to seek help. We are fortunate that we are given only one choice, one last chance. We must break the triangle of self-obsession. We must grow up or die. Now, that's the triangle of self-obsession, and obviously it's very much centered around addiction and all those things. Personally, I think that a lot of us suffer from the triangle of self-obsession. I actually I don't like the word suffer, so I would rather say that I think a lot of us experience that triangle of self-obsession. I think one of the easiest ways for me to kind of illustrate that is through the kind of culture that we're living in right now, where it is a prioritization of feelings above everything else. Today we live in this world where a person's feelings are the be-all and end-all and need to tell all of us how to move, right? If somebody feels not validated or doesn't feel seen in the world, it's no longer about them finding their place in the world, but it's about the world shifting in order to accommodate them. And that can be a group on a macro level and then individuals on a micro level, right? Where the feelings, it's all about me, my feelings, my safety, my desire for ease and comfort. You know, you guys would have heard me speak about soft life, and I'm like, what the hell is soft life? And this idea that people don't want to be resilient. What are you talking about? Right? And the expectation that the world is supposed to shift to accommodate that. Right? So I believe that most people are experiencing the triangle of self-obsession. I also think sometimes, and the triangle of self-obsession for me is a childlike closet perspective idea, right? It's you were in the closet when you developed that, and so you need to break out of that, and you need to step into the one bedroom, right? And we'll discuss how you actually do this. It's very simple. It's very, very simple, but it's also insanely difficult. Another childlike, or I would like to say maybe a closet perspective, is it's supposed to be like XYZ. That word, supposed. It's supposed to be like this or supposed to be like that. Chief, who said that? Who told you that that's what it's supposed to be like? Remember I said in the closet, children get told things, right? And they accept them, that this is what it is because an adult told me, or, you know, a caregiver told me. But then they also observe things, right? And then from observation, they say that's what it's supposed to look like. but without nuance and context, because children can't actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Like compute. They can't process nuance and context. And most parents don't actually know to explain the nuance and context to their children, right? Because they don't even know like what this kid is picking up on, you know? It's only later in life when they're in relationships that they'll be able to see, oh snap. That's why, you know, in therapy, sometimes they encourage you to go and speak to your parents, because then you will understand the nuance and the context of an idea that you had formed back in the past. I've had to have conversations with my mother where I looked at an idea that I held and it was a very limiting idea for myself. And my mother was able to give me context around, you know, the story that helped, like our life story. My mother was able to give me context around our life story that ultimately helped shape this idea that was limiting me in my own life. And because of that context, I was able to break free from it, because I realized, oh snap. So it wasn't actually what you thought. Like, it happened like this because of this. It didn't just happen, you know. I thought it just happened because I didn't have context. I didn't understand the nuance. But then once I understood the nuance and the context, I was like, oh, no, but that wouldn't happen to me. So let's move, you know? So it's supposed to be like that. Who told you that, Chief? And you need to, like, that's a perspective thing. I saw somebody on my Instagram posting a very common thing that people say in relationships, particularly I guess when it comes to women and men. Like, women tend to say, if he wanted to, he would, right? That is another closet perspective, right? If he wanted to, he would. Again, you are centering yourself. It's all about you. I'm the main character. Me. You're not even thinking about the other person. There's going to be a million reasons why somebody doesn't do something that they actually want to do. A million reasons. I don't know what they are. But when I say that if they wanted to, they would, I center myself and my pain and my, you know, suffering or whatever the case may be. And I say, this person is not worth it because they would have done it and they would have saved me from whatever feelings that I have right now. They just didn't want to, and so I can just rubbish that person away. But in reality, they have their whole lives, bro. They've lived an entire life outside of me. There are things that have happened in that person's life that I will never even know about. And so I need to accept the fact that, like, whilst that may be true, that if they wanted to do it, they would have, I have no idea. I can't actually know. In order to know, I have to go and ask them. Oof, then it gets tricky, because now someone can actually tell you, but no, I just didn't want to. That's not a nice thing. That's not a nice feeling, you know, rejection. But that is a closet perspective, when we believe that if somebody wanted to, that they would. A huge one, and this is the last one that I will speak on. A huge closet perspective that we have is that in certain scenarios, we don't have a choice, right? That in certain scenarios, we just don't have a choice. It's a closet perspective. And I think it's because when you're a child, yes, in some instances, you don't think that you have a choice, because you might not have been empowered to understand that you always have a choice. And so you grow up to be an adult, and in certain situations, you don't think that you have a choice. This is it's a very small idea. Like, if you listen to that, I don't have a choice. How many words is that? I don't have a choice. 5 words. 5 words. But it is a powerful idea. Powerful. And it can lead you into some dark places. Because whilst you might know that you need to leave that space, that dark space, or that you need to do this one thing, because you believe you don't have a choice, the doors are open. Everything is open and you can walk out, but you stand right there. because you feel like you don't have a choice. And it is a closet perspective, right? Because we always have a choice. Now, I'm gonna let you guys in on how I deal with the closet perspective of, we don't have a choice, because I've held that idea once upon a time, but I'll tell you how I deal with it, and then I'll just go into how to deal with the rest of them. But when it comes to that closet perspective of we don't have a choice, I I always get like too extreme, and I think that my life is like some sort of movie. But I always kind of ask myself the simple question, like, okay, Chief, in what scenario don't you have a choice? And this is me talking to myself. I'm having a conversation with myself. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey in Green Lights for making me understand that people actually talk to themselves, because I've been talking to myself for all my life. And I think it's actually quite healthy to be talking to yourself, because you kind of acknowledge the voice that's in your head. But anyway, I digress. Point being, so I kind of put myself in extreme scenarios. And I say, well, in most cases, I don't have a choice. And I say, okay, which cases wouldn't you have a choice? And I go, oh, well, if somebody kidnaps my children one day, then fuck, bro, I must, do what they're saying. And then my voice in my head goes, really? And I said, yeah, like, of course, bro, like, they've got my kids, I must, save my kids. And my voice says, yeah, okay, I know that you want to save your kids, but you don't have to. And I said, what do you mean? I said, you could also just let your children die. Right? Now that's extreme. Don't get it twisted. It's extreme. I get it. But I was like, no, like, you can't let your children die. I was like, no, here's the point. The point is that you obviously don't want your children to die. But if somebody kidnaps your children and they say do X, and you always are going to do X, it means that they can control you. They have power over you. And then the question becomes, where does that power begin and where does it end? Like, when will they not utilize that power to get me to do something that they want me to do? Right? And so I had to acknowledge the fact that, like, whilst I might want to save my children, that I do actually have a choice, that I could let these kids die. And that I must always maintain the power within myself to make a choice. Right? And now I've gone back and forth with myself with that conversation for so long. It's actually ridiculous. But what I've come to also realize is the fact that when it comes down to choices, I'm a lot calmer now in situations also where I think that I don't have a choice initially, because it will happen. My brain will say, you don't have a choice. And I go, wait a second now. Because my mind knows at the very extreme that even then I have a choice, when it comes to real life situations, my brain goes, dude, we have a choice here. And then I can slow it down, assess the situation, and then I can say, okay, this is the choice that I'm going to make. Because I've assessed the situation, I'm going to make the best choice for me at that particular point in time. I'm not going to make a choice just because I don't believe I don't have a choice. But that's how I dealt with that, the choice conundrum. But for all your other ideas, like I said, it's very simple, but it's hard. And the question is, why? You must start to ask yourself, why? Why do I believe this? Why do I think this way? Why did I react like this? Why is this making me uncomfortable? Why? It is the most freeing but, infuriating question on earth, because once you start asking that question, you just never stop. You never stop, and you ask it about everything. I ask why about everything. There was a comment about last week's episode where we spoke about the fact that love is not a safe space, and somebody said, well, Volo, I'd appreciate it if in the next episode we could tackle how best to deal with it. And that's how you deal with it. When you feel triggered, when you feel like your emotions are bubbling up and you want to argue with someone or you want to flee or whatever the case may be, is to slow down and first and foremost, before you react, before you put your actions into motion, is to ask yourself, why? Why? The art of the pause is a superpower. If you can learn how to pause before acting, it'll save you so much heartache in life. And it'll make you a very dangerous human being, and a human being that is able to create the world that they want to see. Pause, observe, try and be objective, and then ask why. Just why. That's it. Why do I feel like this? Why is this person's words hitting me the way that they're hitting me? Why is my head getting hot? Why do I want to just run out the door here? Why this? Why that? Why this? And then when you can come to a conclusion, to ask yourself, okay, how is this going to look moving forward? How is this going to look moving forward? Is it going to be healthy for me, healthy for this person, healthy for the relationship? Or is it just going to be a prolonged, fleeing, which I wanted to do in the very first place? And I asked why, but I wasn't really interested in the answer. I just asked why because Volo said I must ask why. But now I'm just, hey, I asked why, so yeah, I did it, so now I gotta go. You gotta get interested in the why. You got to get interested in yourself. You got to get interested in other people. You got to get interested in the people that you hate. You got to develop curiosity. You must be curious as to why it is that you're experiencing things the way that you are experiencing them. Remember, in that one bedroom, you've got other people there that are saying that my experience is the same as your experience, and it is bullshit. We do not have the same experiences. My experience is my experience because I am living my life. I'm on my journey. My brother's experience is completely different to my experience. We're 1 year apart, bro. I lived with that guy, until our late 20s. I lived with him. And 1000% what he experienced is completely different to what I experienced. And so I need to always remember that I have an experience. And so I need to question myself about that experience. Right? And where I can't reach an objective conclusion, maybe then look to people that I trust wholeheartedly to hold me down and ask them for their objective opinion. But again, they're not the ones that are experiencing it. So I must listen to them and take their advice with a pinch of salt. Kind of understand that where they're coming from is not where I'm at, where I'm like experiencing this. You know what I'm saying? But if they're giving me helpful advice, healthy advice, pay attention, listen. If I want to scurry and run away from what it is that they're saying, again, stop, ask yourself, why? Why are you trying to run away from what this person is saying? If it's not detrimental to you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the key, is to ask yourself why. The last thing I want to say is this. If your life is fine, if you look around your life, you feel like your relationships are healthy, you're happy, like you wake up, you feel good, you go to bed, you feel good, you and your partner are in a good relationship, the communication is solid, you and your close friends, you guys are in a good relationship, your family, and then with strangers as well, that you're not out here attacking people, making people feel bad for being themselves or whatever the case may be, then, Chief, you don't need what it is that I'm talking about. And that's okay. Like, you can be like, no, Sharp, I heard the podcast, I like the podcast, but I'm not going to ask myself why, because I don't need to. Perfect. I don't do meditation, for instance. I've tried it once upon a time, and I was just like, dude, I don't need this thing. I talk to myself all the time. I'm always asking myself questions, etc., etc. So I'm okay. And my life feels good to me. So I don't really need meditation, right? I don't really need these things that other people tell me that, oh, it's so helpful, etc. I'm like, no, I've got my own tools, right, that allow me to live a good life. If you've got your own tools, perfection. But if you're somebody that is looking at their lives, is looking at their relationships, is looking at just anything, and they want to improve, they want more, they want to be better, then perhaps ask yourself why and start implementing these things in your own life. It will really shift the entire way that you experience this existence, hopefully from being what Neo was experiencing, which is everything just happens to me and I'm just going through the motions, that closet mentality, to one day hopefully being on vacant land when you just look at life like it's a theme park and you just want to experience it all, good and bad, everything. Yeah. With that said, guys, that's the end of episode 2 of Love and Philosophy. I really enjoyed this one. It's a lengthy one. I think the last episode, a couple people said, I was listening and then you just stopped speaking and I wanted more. So I've got a little bit lengthier on this one. Give me your feedback. Let me know. Do you think it's a little bit too long? What's the case? And then, yeah, guys, we're going to shape this thing together. We'll find the sweet spot. But yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Give me some feedback in the comments sections. Make sure to share it if something resonates with you. Also, like I said, there's an email address. So if you want to maybe, write something a little lengthier, feel free to email me. The email address is volo@velocity.com. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to episode 3. And in episode 3, I spoke about the idea that I don't have a choice. Well, in episode 3, we're going to go a little bit deeper, and I want to talk about abusive relationships. Yay! That's a subject, friends. I want to talk about abusive relationships because I believe that it's such an important subject, and that so many people kind of ask themselves, dude, how did you even find yourself in an abusive relationship? And how could you not leave an abusive relationship? Right? So I'll share with you guys my thoughts on abusive relationships. Again, I'm not a psychotherapist, bro. So I'm just a guy that thinks that he has a good grasp on these things. You can agree, disagree, it's up to you. But we'll talk about abusive relationships and how closet mentality perspectives generally will have you finding yourself in an abusive relationship because you weren't aware enough to ask the question, why? Oh, I'm looking forward to that conversation. Anyways, this has been Love and Philosophy. See you guys next week, Wednesday, for another episode where we're talking about abuse in relationships.
Blocker, come the selector.
Smile.